Aloha. So I'll be going over a match tonight. This match was completed in the Quick Draw IV4 and played on Solaris City. A couple of things I want to go over in this drop. Uh, Number one is going to be just general strategy in Solaris City, what you want to do when you approach the map, especially as a solo player, if you want to have a lot of impact on your game. First thing I would recommend is always take these ramps, especially if you're in a highly mobile mech like the IV4. I even take these mechs or take the ramps in the Annihilator and stuff because it just gives you a lot of options. You can drop if you need to. You just have more room to maneuver than if you're on the ground. You can always like dodge strikes and stuff way easier. And then I always go to the right. Just general NASCAR wins games. It really does. It also loses games, but we'll see in this game that NASCAR paid off big time. So, next thing is play to the strengths of your mech. Currently, I'm in an MRM30, dual MRM30 IV4, so with jump jets. So I'm going to be trying to find a way to utilize my jump jets to effectively get all of my 2.2k MRM ammo out of this mech, which I'm able to do, as well as find a spot where I can use my armor. I always challenge the middle in Solaris City off the bat. I find you get a lot of free damage here. Not a lot of people are expecting mechs to be up here. Fortunately, due to velocity, I missed that shot. That guy doesn't want anything to do with me, which is probably a good thing. I out-ton him by a little bit. I believe it was a Wolverine. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure, but right near, I'm just waiting, have my crosshair right where the enemy mechs are gonna appear if they decide to go to the right side, and I'm ready to fire before they even get a chance to even target lock me. So I'm also waiting to place a strike because if 4 mechs come around that corner, I want to strike right on top of them. The enemy team instead elected to go into Charlie 4, Charlie 5, Delta 4, which is what I like to call the kill box because you're kind of trapped in there once you get in there. We're able to get a couple trades off here. Unfortunately, I fall down, but I don't get punished here. Hardly as much as I should for falling like that into a tiny gap. I also managed to get a strike off, even after the nerf. Still a pretty decent strike. I think there was 4 or 5 hits. But I've also switched to just airstrikes, so that would have been a lot better as an airstrike. You only do 5 damage per shell now with arty strikes. That's kind of weak. This guy's got himself completely trapped. We're going to keep going right here, and we managed to get a strike off on a nice big group of assault mechs. And now that we've found ourselves a little spot because of our flanking maneuver, we're going to try to utilize this to just get out as much damage as possible. This king crab is doing something really stupid and pushing straight into the oncoming NASCAR by himself with no support, and he's basically dead. We can just discount him at this point. Our team is going to take care of him. If he comes back, we'll shoot at him. But right now, we've managed to find the enemy firing line, and we're going to use this ramp in front of us as cover to get out as much missiles as possible, at the same time taking little to no damage in return. I have a couple bad traits here, but overall, they're mostly good. And we've managed to get up 3-1 at this point. So as long as we don't get ourselves obliterated without doing any damage in return, we should have a pretty good time. I'm already through about half my ammo at this point, and the match is starting to go pretty well for us here. I'm just gonna keep doing this little jump maneuver. I'd highly recommend this in MRM mechs as well as other like PPC mechs. This is great. The Victor is going to try to do what we're doing, which is this is really dumb. The Victor should not have done that. Just you let the IV4, who is currently jump peeking tight angles, do his thing. You don't need to get in his way in a Victor. If you want to do something in a Victor, go flank around through Charlie 4, which is currently what 2 of our assaults are doing. You're a highly mobile assault. Use the mobility. This Marauder 2 is going to do the same thing, and he gets just absolutely obliterated for it, because his hitboxes aren't great, and he has no jump jets. The Annihilator on the other team has decided that he's going to do a do-or-die push here through this gap, and it could have worked if he had committed to it, and just gone all the way up the ramp, but he elects not to do that, and because of that, he gets his Mad Cat focused by our entire team rather than the Annihilator, who has more armor. So the Mad Cat gets obliterated, and they did manage to get a couple more picks, but they're so far behind at this point, also as well as they have 2 LRM assaults. So there's not a lot they can do to bring this game back. At this point, it's just a matter of time. The Annihilator, that do or die push, he didn't commit to it, and so he lost half of his torsos for nothing, got his Mad Cat killed. The Victor is still peeking in front of me, which is just preposterous. All that's left to do now is to just clean up the last 2 mechs. That Awesome there, I'm pretty sure he got 2 picks that game just by alphaing for PPCs or whatever he had, because he was putting in some work. And we managed to get through all of our missiles on the last mech. Farmed a little bit of damage on him, but that's what mrms are for, farming damage. And we come out with a little bit over 1400 damage on this drop. This Pontifar guy here that I'm talking to currently is the Victor pilot, complaining about people stepping in front of him, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Don't do that. If you're in a Victor or any other type of mobile mech, semi-mobile mech, and there's a heavy mech pop-tarting in front of you, just go somewhere else. There's not a lot of places to go in Solaris City, but the Awesome did it, and the Awesome had a great game. I'm pretty sure, yeah, like 5 kills. Like, listen, there is space for 12 players on these maps. You just have to be willing to move. I found the optimal spot for my mech. So don't complain at me for stepping in front of you when I'm in the perfect spot. Anyway, I digress. I'll go over a little bit of a map strat now, I think. Alrighty, so here's the map of Solaris City. Unfortunately, we don't have skirmish as a game mode, so spawns are going to be a little bit strange. But essentially, I spawned here, took the ramp up, continued up, and then peeked here, climbed on top of the building, and eventually dropped down. And this area right here is where I spent the majority of the match. The other team elected to do a counter NASCAR rotation and put themselves into this kill box here. Inside the Delta 4 Charlie 4 side. Right here is where that King Crab elected to push into us and suicided. The Annihilator pushed this ramp here. So we just sat here and waited for them to die in the kill box. This is a really bad spot. I highly recommend staying out of this. If you can go around this way or through the middle, but whatever you do, these kill boxes are very rough. It's really hard to get anything accomplished there. What won us the game, though, honestly, was the 2 assaults that flanked around the outside like this, getting 5 kills, at least. The Awesome had 5 kills. That was a huge play by them, huge heads-up call. I highly recommend doing this if you have way too many people stuck. Like, these 2 choke points were cramped. We tried to fit 12 people there, and you can't do that. So 2 of us went around, made huge plays here. The other team, honestly, didn't really do much. They kind of just sat here and got obliterated over time. They eventually tried to push out, but they didn't commit to it, so they died. If their King Crab had stayed alive and pushed out with the Annihilator and the Mad Cat here, maybe could have made a play to win them the game. But as it stands, they were unable to do that. I'm going to finish off the video with a little bit of the build theory behind the IV4 and why it's such a good mech. The mech that I was running at the time is the dual MRM30 version of the mech. I don't have this mech super scienced out. It's not super optimal or anything. I probably just threw this together a couple of years ago when it was meta in faction play, but just here's the general idea behind the build. You have your two highly centralized missile hardpoints, along with a ton of armor quirks. We're getting 30 extra armor just from skills and quirks alone in our center torso, which is insane for a 60-ton mech. Like, the only other mech that competes with that, arguably, is the Roughneck. Like, other 60-tonners in its class, you're gonna see things like the Hellfire. Just, this isn't skilled or anything, but like, it's missing 30 armor. What else is 60 tons? The Mad Dog, maybe? And then, like, the Mad Dog is 20 points of armor behind this. That's an extra AC 20 that it's going to take to kill you. So its armor quirks are still insane, even though they recently got a nerf. Basically, the general idea with this build is have a high alpha and then get through all your ammo. And then you have the armor on top of that, as well as it's 78 kph, so it's not slow by any means. If you want to, you can be at the front of the NASCAR, even if you get a bad spawn. Another build idea with it is going to be mrm40s. This is a much higher alpha, but it runs a lot hotter. So this mech isn't too bad on heat as long as you have your cool shots. I really only bring this mech out in like faction play and Solaris, I think. I'll run this build specifically in Solaris because it can chip through annihilators a little bit quicker and you have a lot more time to reposition and cool off. This mech doesn't have jump jets though. I probably, if I was to optimize it, would remove maybe some armor off the legs, a half ton of ammo, and slap a jump jet on there. But it's not impossible to play. The high mounts do give it a decent amount of hill peaking power, even without jump jets. But for quick play, I'd recommend the 30s. Higher DPS, more sustain. All the heat changes and stuff make it to where MRM 30s, you can put out probably 400 damage before you have to cool off. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's the general idea behind the IV4. It's a great mech for the weight. Highly recommend it for competitive play. You're not going to be running around, surgically removing components or anything, but honestly, if I'm in an annihilator or a slow-moving big mech, the MRMs are my worst nightmare because I can't avoid them. I just have to sit here and take an 80 damage alpha or a 60 damage alpha 3 times, and the best I can do is shoot back twice because you're jumping and you're in and out of cover because you're so freaking fast. So would highly recommend this mech. If you don't have one, you should get it. Probably one of the top 3 heavy mechs in the game right now.